Han wiped the grease from his hands and looked at the broken pipe in front of him. It was the third one this week. The Velen space station was old in some parts, and nobody wanted to fix the old parts. Nobody except humans like him. 3 years. He had been on this station for 3 years now. In that time, he had fixed thousands of pipes, cleaned hundreds of air filters, and crawled through dark tunnels that no other species wanted to enter. He was a maintenance worker, the lowest job on the station, the kind of job that made you invisible. The Velens were the rulers here. They were tall, strong, and beautiful in a cold way. Their skin was pale blue, and their eyes were like silver mirrors. They walked through the station like they owned everything. Because they did. The Velan Empire controlled half the galaxy, and they never let anyone forget it. To them, humans were nothing special. Earth had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago. Humans were small, weak, and short-lived compared to most alien species. They could not run as fast as the Kalari. They could not lift as much as the Gorath. They did not live as long as the Velans. So humans got the jobs nobody else wanted. Cleaning, fixing, serving. Han never complained. He did his work, ate his small meals, and slept in his tiny room. His only friend was another human named Tay, who worked as an engineer in the lower decks. Tay was always smiling, always making jokes about their situation. "We are space janitors," Tay would say, laughing. "The galaxy's most advanced cleaning crew." Han would smile but say nothing. He had learned long ago that complaining changed nothing. You just had to keep going. Tonight was like any other night. Han was working late, fixing a power line in a corridor that most people never used. It was in the Royal Wing, the part of the station where the Valen nobles lived. He was not supposed to be there, but the work order had come from above, and nobody questioned work orders. The corridor was quiet. His footsteps echoed on the metal floor. The lights were dim here, and shadows filled the corners. Han knelt down and opened his toolbox. The power line was old and cracked. It would take an hour to fix, maybe more. He was halfway through the repair when he heard something. A sound that did not belong. Voices, angry voices. And then a crash. Han stopped working. His heart beat faster. He should stay here. He should mind his own business. Getting involved in Velan matters was dangerous for a human. They could throw him off the station. They could do worse. But then he heard something else. A woman's voice. She was fighting, and she was losing. Han stood up. His hands were shaking. Every smart part of his brain told him to stay. To hide. To pretend he heard nothing. He started running toward the sound. The corridor turned left, then right. The sounds grew louder. Han came around a corner and stopped. His breath caught in his chest. 3 figures in dark clothes had cornered a woman against the wall. They had weapons, energy blades that glowed red in the darkness. The woman was fighting back. But she was wounded. Blue blood ran down her arm. She was Velen, he could see that much. And she was important, based on the quality of her clothes. The attackers had not seen Han yet. They were focused on their target. Han knew he should run. He was just a maintenance worker. He had no weapons. No training for combat. These people would kill him without a second thought. But he could not make his legs move backward. He could only move forward. He grabbed the heaviest tool from his belt. A metal wrench, solid and cold in his hand. Then he ran at the nearest attacker and swung with all his strength. The wrench connected with the back of the attacker's head. The figure dropped to the ground without a sound. The other 2 turned, shocked. They had not expected anyone else. Certainly not a human. Han did not give them time to think. He threw his toolbox at the second attacker. Tools scattered everywhere. The attacker stumbled back, trying to avoid the flying metal. In that moment, the woman moved. She grabbed the fallen attacker's blade and drove it into the second one's chest. 2 down, 1 left. The last attacker looked at Han with pure hatred. Then he charged. Han tried to dodge, but he was too slow. The energy blade cut across his side. Pain exploded through his body. He fell to his knees, gasping. The world became blurry and dark, but the attacker had made a mistake. He had turned his back to the woman. She was on him in a second. Her movements were fast and deadly. The fight was over before Han could blink. Then there was silence. Han pressed his hand against his side. Blood was running through his fingers. Human blood, red and warm. He felt cold. Very cold. Footsteps approached. The woman knelt beside him. Her silver eyes looked into his. Up close, she was the most beautiful person Han had ever seen. But there was something else in her eyes, something like shock. "You are human," she said. Her voice was soft and clear. "Yes," Han managed to say. "You saved me." Han wanted to answer, but the darkness was pulling at him. He felt himself falling. The last thing he saw was her face, her silver eyes wide with an emotion he could not name. Then everything went black. When Han's body went limp, Princess Yuna caught him before he hit the ground. She held this strange human in her arms, and felt something she had not felt in a very long time. Confusion. She was the High Princess of the Velen Empire. Daughter of the Emperor. One of the most powerful people in the galaxy. And this human, this small and fragile creature, had just risked his life for her. Why? He had nothing to gain. He had everything to lose. Humans did not matter in the Empire. They were workers, servants. Nothing more. This one could have walked away. He could have pretended he saw nothing. No one would have blamed him, but he had fought, he had bled, he had almost died for a stranger. Yuna looked at his face. It was a plain face by Velen standards. No sharp features, no silver eyes. Just a simple human face, now pale from blood loss. "Guards!" she shouted. Her voice echoed through the corridor. "Guards, come now." She heard running footsteps. Help was coming. She looked down at the human again. "Do not die," she whispered. "You have questions to answer." She did not understand why. But she needed to know more about this man. She needed to understand why he had done what he did. In her world of politics and power, no one did anything without a reason. What was his reason? The guards arrived and took the human from her arms. Yuna watched them carry him away. Her own wound was still bleeding, but she did not care. Something had changed tonight. She did not know what yet. But she could feel it in her bones. This human had saved her life. And among the Velen, such a debt could never be forgotten. Han opened his eyes slowly. The light was too bright. Everything was white and clean and quiet. He tried to move, but his body felt heavy. There was no pain, which surprised him. He remembered the blade cutting into his side. He remembered the blood. "You are awake." Han turned his head. Tay was sitting beside his bed. His friend's face was pale, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He looked like he had not slept in days. "Where am I?" Han asked. His voice came out rough and dry. "Medical Bay. The Royal Medical Bay." Tay leaned closer. "Han, do you know what you did? Do you have any idea?" Han tried to remember. The dark corridor. The attackers. The woman with silver eyes. "I helped someone," he said. Tay laughed. But there was no humor in it. "You helped someone. That is one way to say it. Han, you saved the High Princess. Princess Yuna, daughter of the Emperor, one of the most important people in the entire empire." Han stared at his friend. The words did not make sense. He was nobody. He fixed pipes and cleaned filters. He did not save princesses. "You have been asleep for 2 days, Tay continued. "The whole station is talking about it. A human saved the princess. Some people think it is a lie. Some people think it is a trick. And some people..." He paused. "Some people are very angry." Before Han could respond, the door opened. 4 guards walked in first, their faces hard and cold. Then, she entered. Princess Yuna. She looked different from that night. Her wound was healed, and she wore clothes that probably cost more than everything Han had ever owned. Her silver eyes swept across the room and stopped on him. Tay jumped to his feet and bowed low. Han tried to sit up, but his body refused. "Leave us," Yuna said to the guards. Her voice allowed no argument. "Your Highness," one guard started. "This human is—" I said leave. The guards exchanged looks but obeyed. Tay looked at Han with wide eyes before following them out. The door closed, and Han was alone with the princess. She walked closer to his bed. Her movements were graceful, like water flowing over stone. She stopped at his side and looked down at him. Her face showed nothing. No emotion. No warmth, just calm observation. "You are the human who saved me," she said. "Yes, Your Highness." "Why?" The question caught Han off guard. He had expected many things. Anger, maybe. Or gratitude. But not this simple question. "I heard fighting," he said honestly. "I heard you needed help. Many people have heard others need help. They do not come. Especially not humans. Your kind knows better than to involve yourself in Velen matters." Han did not know what to say. She was right. What he did was foolish. Dangerous. Stupid. Any other human would have walked away. "I do not know why," he finally admitted. "I just could not walk away." Yuna studied him for a long moment. Her silver eyes seemed to look right through him, searching for something. Lies. Maybe. Or hidden motives. "Among my people," she said slowly. "When someone saves a royal's life, a debt is created. A bond that cannot be broken. The saved must repay the saver. This is our oldest law." Han felt his heart beat faster. "Your Highness, I do not want anything. I was just doing what was right. That is not how it works." For the first time, something like frustration crossed her face. "You have put me in a very difficult position. You are human. My people do not owe debts to humans. The court does not know how to respond. Some say the law does not apply to your kind. Others say the law is the law." "Then pretend it did not happen," Han said. "I will go back to my work. We can both forget about that night." Yuna's eyes widened slightly. That was not what she expected to hear. "You would give up a debt from a princess? Do you understand what that means? You could ask for wealth, land, status, a position in the court. Anything within my power to give." Han thought about it. Really thought about it. He could ask for so much. He could change his entire life with one request. No more crawling through dirty tunnels. No more being invisible. But something felt wrong about it. He had not saved her for a reward. He had saved her because it was the right thing to do. Taking a reward now would make it feel cheap. Dirty. "I just want to go back to work," he said quietly. Yuna stared at him. For the first time, her mask of calm broke. She looked confused. Lost. Even. "You are a strange human," she said. "I have been told that before." The corner of her mouth twitched, almost a smile, but not quite. She turned and walked toward the door. But before she left, she stopped. "I will visit again," she said without looking back. "I have questions." Then she was gone. Over the next few weeks, Yuna kept her word. She visited Han in secret, coming to his small room in the lower decks when no one was watching. Each time, she asked questions. She asked about Earth. What was it like? What did humans eat? How did they live? Han told her about blue skies and green trees and oceans that went on forever. He told her about cities full of people and small villages in the mountains. He told her about music and art and the way humans danced at celebrations. She asked about human customs. How did they choose their mates? What did they believe happened after death? Why did they help each other even when there was no reward? Han answered as best he could, though some questions were hard to explain. She asked about him. Where was he born? Did he have family? Why did he leave Earth? Han told her about his small town and his parents, who had died young. He told her about joining the military as a medic, trying to help people. He told her about coming to the stars because Earth felt empty without anyone to go home to. Each visit, Yuna stayed a little longer. Each conversation went a little deeper. "Your people are strange," she said one night, sitting in his tiny room. "You are weak by galactic standards. You live short lives. You have no special powers. Yet you spread across the stars. You take the worst jobs. You never give up." "We are stubborn," Han said with a small smile. "It is probably our only real skill. It is not a small thing." Yuna looked at him with those silver eyes. "My people respect strength, speed, power. We never thought to respect stubbornness. Perhaps we should." She left that night without another word, but something had changed between them. The questions were no longer just about humans. They were about him. And Han, for the first time in years, did not feel invisible anymore. When Yuna looked at him, she actually saw him. Not a maintenance worker, not a weak human, just him. It was a dangerous feeling. He knew that. She was a princess. He was nobody. Nothing could ever happen between them. But late at night, alone in his small room, Han found himself waiting for her next visit. Found himself thinking about her silver eyes and the way her voice softened when she talked to him. He knew he was falling, and he knew he should stop. But some things, like saving a stranger in a dark corridor, could not be stopped by knowing better. Some things just happened whether you were ready or not. Lord Kale was not happy. He stood in his chambers, looking out at the stars, his hands closed into tight fists. For years, he had planned his rise to power. For years, he had worked toward one goal. Princess Yuna would be his mate. Together, they would rule the empire. Everything was in place, and then, a human ruined it all. The selection ceremony was coming. Every 10 years, the royal family held this event, where the princess would choose her mate from the noble houses. Kale had spent decades preparing. He had the strongest bloodline, the most military victories, the most wealth. No one could match him. But now, the court was whispering. A human had saved the princess. A debt had been created. Ancient laws were being discussed. Some said the princess might owe this human something. Some even joked that she might choose him as her mate. It was ridiculous, of course. A human as royal mate? Impossible. Against every tradition, the court would never allow it. But Kale did not like risks. He did not like loose ends. This human had to be dealt with. He called his servants and gave them orders. Simple orders. Nothing that could be traced back to him. Make the human's life difficult. Give him dangerous work. Spread rumors that he was a spy, that he had planned the attack to make himself look like a hero. Let him suffer. Let him break. Let him beg to leave the station. And if he did not break? Well, accidents happened all the time in the maintenance tunnels. Han noticed the change almost immediately. His work assignments became harder. He was sent to fix things in dangerous areas. Places with radiation leaks or unstable structures. The other workers started avoiding him. Some looked at him with suspicion, others with fear. "They are saying things about you," Tay warned him one night. "Bad things. They say you planned the attack on the princess. They say you are working with her enemies." Han sighed. He was tired. So tired. His body ached from the extra work, and his mind was heavy with worry. Who is spreading these lies? I do not know, but it is coming from somewhere powerful. Someone does not want you here, Han. Han knew who it was. He had heard about Lord KL, the noble who wanted Yuna. It did not take much thinking to connect the pieces. But what could he do? He was a maintenance worker. KL was one of the most powerful lords in the Empire. "Maybe I should leave," Han said quietly. "Go back to Earth. Forget all of this. Is that what you want?" Han thought about Yuna. Her visits, her questions, the way she smiled at him when no one else was watching. If he left, he would never see her again. "No," he admitted. "But wanting something does not mean you can have it." The weeks passed. The work got harder. Han lost weight. He barely slept. Tay tried to help, but there was only so much one friend could do. The whole station seemed to be turning against him, but Han did not break. He did not complain. He just kept working. Yuna watched from a distance. She could not visit him as often now. Too many eyes were watching. But she heard reports. She knew what KL was doing, and it made her angry in a way she did not fully understand. One night, she confronted Han in a quiet corridor. He looked terrible. Thin and pale and exhausted. But when he saw her, he still managed to smile. "Your Highness," he said, "you should not be here. People will talk. Let them talk." She stepped closer. "Why do you stay? You know what KL is doing. You know he wants to destroy you. Why do you not leave?" Han looked at her for a long moment. His eyes were tired but honest. "Because leaving would feel like losing," he said. "And I have lost enough in my life." Yuna did not know what to say. In her world, people fought with power and politics. They schemed and betrayed and manipulated. This human just endured. He took every blow and kept standing. "You are stubborn," she said. "You said it yourself. It is our only skill. Despite everything." She laughed. A real laugh. Soft and warm. Han stared at her like she was the sun coming out after a long storm. "I will try to help you," she said. "I cannot do much without revealing my interest, but I will try. You do not have to." "I know." She looked into his eyes. "I want to." Before either of them could say more, alarms started screaming. Red lights flashed along the corridor. A voice came over the speakers. Calm, but urgent. "Reactor malfunction in Section 7. All personnel evacuate immediately." Section 7 was the oldest part of the station. If the reactor exploded there, it would take out half the station with it. Han's body moved before his mind could stop it. He ran towards Section 7 while everyone else ran away. Yuna shouted after him, but he did not stop. The reactor room was chaos. Flames and smoke filled the air. The radiation levels were climbing fast. The few engineers who had been working there were already fleeing. None of them wanted to die for this old station. Han grabbed a radiation suit from the emergency locker. It was old and patched in several places, but it was better than nothing. He put it on and ran into the reactor room. The problem was clear. A cooling pipe had broken, and the reactor core was overheating. Without cooling, it would explode in minutes. Someone needed to fix the pipe. Someone needed to get close to the core, close enough to die. Han did not think about it. He grabbed his tools and started working. The heat was incredible. Even through the suit, he could feel it burning his skin. The radiation counter on his arm climbed higher and higher. He worked faster than he had ever worked before. His hands moved without hesitation. Years of fixing pipes in dark tunnels had prepared him for this moment. The pipe sealed. The cooling system activated. The reactor began to stabilize. Han tried to walk back to the exit, but his legs gave out. The radiation had done its damage. He collapsed on the floor, his vision fading. The last thing he heard was shouting. Someone was calling his name, many someones. Then darkness took him. When they carried Han out of the reactor room, Yuna was waiting. She saw his burned skin, his closed eyes, the way his body hung limp in the rescuer's arms. Something inside her cracked. Something she had been trying to ignore for weeks. She pushed past the guards and knelt beside him. She took his hand, not caring who was watching. "He needs the best doctors," she commanded. Now, the guards hesitated. He was just a human. The best doctors were reserved for nobility. Now, Yuna's voice was ice and fire. No one argued. As they rushed Han to the medical bay, Yuna stayed by his side. She held his hand and watched his pale face. She had spent her whole life being told what strength was, power, dominance, victory. But watching this human run into fire to save a station full of people who hated him, she realized she had been taught wrong. This was strength, true strength, and she would not let it die. The selection ceremony was the biggest event of the decade. Ships came from every corner of the empire. Nobles from 100 worlds gathered in the grand hall of the station. The room was vast, with ceilings so high they disappeared into shadow. Banners of every great house hung from the walls. Thousands of guests filled the space, dressed in their finest clothes. At the front of the hall, on a raised platform, sat the elders of the Velen court. Elder Sora, the oldest and wisest among them, would lead the ceremony. Beside the platform stood the noble males who hoped to be chosen. Lord Kale stood at the front, his chin high, his silver eyes shining with confidence. He had won. He knew it. The human had nearly died in the reactor incident. Even now, Han was barely recovered, standing somewhere in the back with the servants. Weak, broken, no longer a threat. Yuna would choose him. She had no other real option. He was the strongest, the richest, the most powerful. Tradition demanded she select the best, and he was the best. Han watched from the back of the hall. He should not be here. He was still recovering from the radiation burns. His skin was pink and tender in places. His lungs hurt when he breathed too deeply. But Tay had insisted he come. "You saved the whole station," Tay had said. "You deserve to see this, even if it is from the back." So Han stood among the servants and watched. He watched the nobles in their beautiful clothes. He watched the elders take their seats. He watched the doors at the side of the platform, waiting for Yuna to enter. When she did, the whole room fell silent. Princess Yuna walked like she was made of starlight. Her dress was white and silver, flowing behind her like a river. Her hair was arranged in an elaborate style, decorated with small gems that caught the light. Her face was calm and beautiful, and impossible to read. Han's heart ached just looking at her. She was so far away from him. Not just physically, but in every way that mattered. She was a princess. He was a maintenance worker. She belonged to the stars. He belonged to the shadows. He should not have come. Seeing her choose someone else would hurt more than the radiation ever did. Elder Sora stood and raised her hands. The room grew, even quieter. "We gather today for the selection," Sora announced. Her voice carried through the hall. "Princess Yuna has reached the age of choosing. Today, she will select her mate. He will stand beside her. He will share her power and her burden. He will be father to her children and partner in her reign." Sora turned to the line of noble males. "These are the candidates. Lords of great houses. Warriors of proven strength. Leaders of their people. Each one is worthy of the honor." Han saw Kale smile. It was a small smile, barely visible, but full of certainty. Sora turned to Yuna. "Princess, the choice is yours. Select your mate." The hall held its breath. Yuna stood motionless for a long moment. Her silver eyes swept across the line of nobles. Each one stood taller as her gaze passed over them. Then, instead of walking toward them, she turned around. She walked down from the platform. The crowd began to murmur. What was she doing? Where was she going? This was not how the ceremony worked. She was supposed to walk to her chosen mate, take his hand, and present him to the court. She was walking the wrong way. Yuna moved through the crowd. Nobles stepped aside, confusion on their faces. She walked past the wealthy merchants, past the military commanders, past the servants at the edge of the room. She stopped in front of Han. The murmurs became gasps, then shouts. People craned their necks to see what was happening. Who was she standing in front of? Who was this person in simple worker clothes? A human. She was standing in front of a human. Han could not breathe. His heart had stopped. This was not happening. This could not be happening. Your Highness, he whispered. What are you doing? Yuna looked at him with those silver eyes, and for the first time since he had known her, she smiled. A full smile that made her whole face glow. What I should have done weeks ago, she said. She took his hand. Her fingers were cool and soft against his rough, burned skin. She turned to face the crowd, pulling him gently to stand beside her. The hall exploded with noise, shouting, screaming, demands for explanation. Lord Kale's voice was the loudest, full of rage and disbelief. Yuna raised her other hand. Slowly, the noise died down. Everyone wanted to hear what she would say. He is my mate, she said. Her voice was clear and strong. This human, Han, is my chosen. He saved my life when he had nothing to gain. He served this station with honor when everyone else despised him. He ran into fire to save thousands of people who had treated him like dirt. She looked at Kale. You speak of strength, Lord Kale. You speak of power. But you do not know what true strength is. True strength is not how hard you can hit. It is how much you can endure. It is standing up when the universe pushes you down. It is doing what is right even when no one is watching. She turned back to the crowd. This human has more strength in his heart than all your noble bloodlines combined. And he is my mate. The silence was heavy. Then Lord Kale stepped forward, his face twisted with anger. This is madness, he shouted. This is against all tradition. A human cannot be royal mate. I demand this selection be rejected. Elder Sora raised her hand for silence. Her old face was thoughtful as she looked at Yuna, then at Han. The princess has made her choice, Sora said slowly. The ancient law is clear. The royal's choice is absolute. No council, no lord, no elder can overrule it. Then I invoke the right of challenge, Kale declared. The crowd gasped again. The right of challenge was old, nearly forgotten. It allowed a rejected suitor to fight for the claimed mate. The fight would be to submission, or death. Sora frowned. Lord Kale. It is my right. Kyle interrupted. The law says any male may challenge for a mate. Any male. Even against the princess's choice. He pointed at Han. I challenge this human. If he cannot defeat me, the princess's choice is void. She will select again. And this time, she will select properly. The crowd parted as Kale walked toward Han. The Lord was tall and powerful, muscles visible even through his formal clothes. His silver eyes burned with hatred. What do you say, human? Do you accept? Or do you run away like the weak creature you are? Han felt Yuna's hand tighten around his. He looked at her face and saw fear. Real fear. She had risked everything for him. And now, he might die because of it. He should refuse. He should let Kale win. Maybe Yuna could find happiness with someone else. Maybe she could forget about him. But he looked at her eyes and knew she never would. If he refused, if he walked away, something inside her would break. She had chosen him in front of the entire empire. She had declared him worthy. If he ran now, he would prove everyone right. Humans were weak. Humans were cowards. Humans were nothing. Han turned to face Kale. I accept, he said. The words came out quiet but steady. The crowd fell silent again. Kale smiled. It was a cruel smile, full of anticipation. Then we fight in 3 days, Kale said. I will enjoy breaking you, human. I will enjoy it very much. He turned and walked away. The crowd began to buzz with conversation. Some laughed at the human's foolishness. Some shook their heads in pity. Some whispered about what the fight would look like, but Han did not hear any of it. He looked at Yuna. She was crying. Tears ran down her perfect face, making silver trails on her cheeks. Why did you accept? She asked. He will kill you. Han reached up and gently wiped her tears away. Because you chose me, he said. You stood in front of everyone and said I was worthy. How could I run after that? Yuna grabbed his shirt and pulled him close. You foolish, stubborn human, she whispered. Yes. Han agreed. But I am your foolish, stubborn human. And I do not intend to die. He hoped he was telling the truth. 3 days. Han had 3 days to prepare for a fight that everyone expected him to lose. 3 days to find a way to defeat a Velon lord who had been training for combat his entire life. The odds were not good. Tay came to see him the first night. His friend's face was pale, and his hands were shaking. You are insane, Tay said. You know that, right? Completely insane. Probably, Han admitted. Kale has killed 12 people in official duels. 12. And those were other Velons. Strong, trained warriors. You are a maintenance worker. You fix pipes. I know. Then why? Tay grabbed Han's shoulders. Why did you accept? You could have refused. You could have what? Han's voice was gentle but firm. Let Yuna be forced to marry him? Watch her spend her life with a man she hates? Tay let go and stepped back. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. I do not want to lose my only friend, he said quietly. Han pulled Tay into a hug. They stood like that for a long moment. You will not lose me, Han said. I promise. Do not make promises you cannot keep. Then help me keep it. The next morning, Yuna came to Han's quarters. She was not alone. Behind her walked 4 Velan warriors, each one tall and strong and covered in battle scars. These are my personal guards, Yuna explained. The best fighters in the Empire. They will train you. Han looked at the warriors. They looked back at him with doubt in their eyes. Training a human to fight a Velan lord was like teaching a fish to climb a tree. Some things were simply impossible, but they had orders from their princess, so they would try. The first day of training was brutal. The warriors taught Han basic combat moves, how to block, how to dodge, how to strike. Han learned quickly, but his body could not keep up. He was too slow, too weak. The warriors could knock him down with a single hit. By evening, Han was covered in bruises. Every part of his body ached. He lay on the training room floor, staring at the ceiling. This is not working, he said to no one in particular. Yuna sat beside him. She had watched the entire training session. Her face was worried, but she tried to hide it. You are improving, she said. I am learning how to fall down faster. She laughed softly, then her face grew serious. There must be another way. Maybe I can call off the ceremony. Maybe I can. No. Han sat up, ignoring the pain. If you call it off, Kale wins. Your people will see you as weak. They will see humans as weak. This is bigger than just us. Yuna looked at him for a long moment. When did you become so wise? I am not wise. I am just stubborn. That night, Han did not sleep. He sat in his room and thought. He could not beat Kale in a fair fight. The Lord was faster, stronger, more experienced. Training for 3 days would not change that, but maybe he did not need to fight fair. Han remembered something from Earth. A long time ago, before humans had technology, they hunted animals much larger and faster than themselves. They could not outrun a deer. They could not overpower a bear, but they had one advantage: endurance. Humans could run longer than almost any animal on Earth. They would chase their prey for hours, sometimes days, until the animal collapsed from exhaustion. It was called persistence hunting. The animal was always faster at first, but humans never stopped. They just kept going. And eventually, even the fastest animal would fall. Maybe that was the key. Kale was stronger and faster. But was he tougher? Could he keep fighting when his muscles burned and his lungs screamed for air? Han did not know, but it was the only chance he had. The next 2 days, Han changed his training. He did not try to learn how to hit harder. Instead, he learned how to take hits. He let the warriors strike him again and again, teaching his body to absorb the impact, to stay standing when everything told him to fall. He studied recordings of Kale's previous duels. He watched how the Lord fought. Kale was aggressive. He liked to end fights quickly, with overwhelming force. He did not have patience. When his opponents lasted longer than expected, he got frustrated. He made mistakes. That was his weakness. Han also noticed something else. Kale was arrogant. He played with his opponents, dragging out the fight to show his dominance. He liked to see fear in their eyes. He liked to hear them beg. Han would give him neither. The night before the duel, Yuna came to Han's room alone. She sat beside him on his small bed, her silver eyes full of emotions he could not name. I am scared, she admitted. I have never been this scared in my life. Han took her hand. I know. Everyone says you will die. The nobles, the warriors, even my own guards. They all think this is the end. What do you think? Yuna looked at him. Really looked at him. I think you are the most surprising person I have ever met. Every time I think I understand you, you do something impossible. You saved me when you should have run. You stayed when you should have left. You accepted the challenge when you should have refused. She squeezed his hand. So I think that tomorrow, you will surprise everyone again. Han smiled. It was a tired smile, full of fear and hope mixed together. I will try my best. That is all I ask. Yuna leaned forward and rested her head on his shoulder. Whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know something. I do not regret choosing you. Not for a single moment. Even if the worst happens, I would still make the same choice. Han put his arm around her. They sat like that for a long time. Not speaking. Just being together. Two people from different worlds. Facing an impossible future. I was invisible my whole life, Han said quietly. On Earth. On this station. Everywhere I went, people looked right through me. I was nobody special. Just another face in the crowd. He turned to look at her. You were the first person who really saw me. You looked at me and saw someone worth knowing. Someone worth choosing. His voice cracked slightly. I do not know if I can win tomorrow. But I know that I will fight with everything I have. Because you believed in me when no one else did. Yuna lifted her head and looked into his eyes. Then she leaned forward and pressed her lips to his. The kiss was soft and gentle and felt like coming home. When they finally pulled apart, Yuna was smiling through her tears. You will win, she said. I believe in you. I hope you are right. I am always right. I am a princess. Han laughed. For a moment, the fear went away, and there was only this. A man and a woman, finding something precious in a universe that had given them so little. Tomorrow would bring the fight. Tomorrow would bring pain and blood, and possibly death. But tonight, Han felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. The arena was the oldest part of the station, built in a time when the Velans solved all disagreements with combat. It was a massive circular room with sand covering the floor and seats rising up all around. Today, every seat was filled. Thousands had come to watch. Many more watched on screens throughout the station and across the Empire. A human was fighting a Velan lord for the right to be royal mate. Nothing like this had happened in 1,000 years. Han stood at one end of the arena. He wore simple fighting clothes, light and flexible. He had no armor. No weapons except his hands. The rules of the challenge allowed only what your body could do. At the other end stood Kale. The Lord looked like a god of war. His muscles rippled under his fighting clothes. His silver eyes burned with hatred and anticipation. He smiled at Han, showing teeth that looked sharp enough to tear flesh. Little human, Kale called across the arena. Are you ready to die? Han did not answer. He was conserving his energy. Every breath, every heartbeat, every thought had to be focused on the fight ahead. In the stands, Yuna sat with the royal family. Her face was a mask of calm, but her hands gripped the arms of her chair so hard her knuckles were white. Beside her, Elder Sora watched with curious eyes. The old woman had seen many duels, but never one quite like this. Tay sat in the human section, with Captain Day and the other humans on the station. No one was speaking. No one was breathing. The announcer's voice echoed through the arena. The challenge has been accepted. Lord Kael of House Voran fights Han of Earth for the princess's choice. The match continues until one fighter submits, or cannot continue. A horn sounded. The fight began. Kael did not waste time. He charged across the arena like a missile, closing the distance in seconds. His first punch was a blur. Han tried to dodge, but he was too slow. The fist connected with his chest, and he flew backward, crashing into the arena wall. Pain exploded through his body. Han gasped for breath. One hit. That was all it took. One hit, and he felt like his ribs were broken. The crowd roared with laughter. Of course. This was how it would end. The human would fall, and everything would go back to normal. Kael walked toward him slowly, enjoying the moment. Is that all you have? The Lord asked. I expected more. The man who saved the princess. Who survived the reactor fire. I thought you would at least make this interesting. Han pushed himself to his feet. His legs shook. His chest screamed with pain. But he stood. Kale's smile faded slightly. Still standing? Good. I was worried this would be over too quickly. He attacked again. Punch. Kick. Elbow. Each strike landed with devastating force. Han tried to block, tried to dodge, but it was useless. He was too slow, too weak. He fell again. And again. And again. 5 minutes into the fight, Han was a mess. Blood ran from his nose and mouth. One eye was swollen shut. His body was covered in bruises. He had not landed a single hit. The crowd began to grow quiet. Some were uncomfortable watching this. It was not a fight. It was a massacre. In the stands, Yuna was crying. She had tried to stay strong. But seeing Han beaten like this broke something inside her. She wanted to stop the fight. She wanted to run into the arena and protect him, but she could not. The rules were clear. Only Han could end this. Kale stood over Han's fallen body, breathing hard. Even for him, beating something repeatedly was tiring. Just submit, Kale said. End this. Tell them I have won. And I will let you live. You can crawl back to whatever hole you came from. Han lay on the sand, staring up at the lights. Everything hurt. Everything inside him screamed to give up. But then he thought about Yuna. He thought about her standing in front of the whole empire, pointing at him, saying he was worthy. He thought about Tay, who had stuck by him when everyone else turned away. He thought about all the humans on this station, in this empire, who were watching right now. If he gave up, what message would that send? That humans were weak? That they broke under pressure? That they did not deserve respect? No. Han put his hands on the ground and pushed himself up. His arms shook, his whole body shook. But inch by inch, he rose. The crowd fell completely silent. Kale stared in disbelief. He had broken warriors with less than what he had given this human. How was he still moving? You should stay down, Kale said. Han spat blood onto the sand. Make me. Something shifted in the arena. The laughter was gone. People were leaning forward in their seats. This human, this broken, bleeding creature, was still fighting. Kale attacked again. More punches. More kicks. Han fell down again. And again, he got up. Kale was breathing harder now. Frustration was growing on his face. This was not how the fight was supposed to go. The human should have broken by now. He should have begged for mercy. But Han did not beg. He did not cry. He just kept standing. 10 minutes passed. 15, 20. Kale's movements became slower. His attacks lost their precision. He was not used to fighting this long. His opponents always fell quickly. Always. But this human refused to fall. Or rather, he fell. But he always got back up. The crowd was murmuring now. They had never seen anything like this. The human was clearly losing. He had not landed a single meaningful hit. But he would not stop. Han stood again, swaying on his feet. His vision was blurry. He could barely feel his arms. But he watched Kale and saw what he had been waiting for. The Lord was tired. Kale charged again, but this time Han moved. Not faster, but smarter. He let Kale's punch graze his head instead of hitting it directly. He twisted his body, absorbing the impact instead of fighting it. And then he struck back. His fist hit Kale's throat. It was not a powerful hit, but it was precise. Kale stumbled back, choking, eyes wide with shock. The arena erupted. Han did not stop. He attacked again. His movements were slow and clumsy compared to a villain. But Kale was tired now, off balance. Han hit his knee, his ribs, his temple. Each hit was weak by Valen standards. But they added up. And Kale, who had never faced an opponent who lasted this long, did not know how to respond. The Lord swung wildly. Han ducked under the punch and drove his elbow into Kale's stomach. The Villain doubled over. Han grabbed Kale's head and brought his knee up into the Lord's face. Kale fell to the ground. The arena was chaos. People were screaming, shouting, some in anger, some in disbelief. The human was winning. The human was actually winning. Kale tried to rise, but his body would not obey. He had spent everything trying to break Han. He had nothing left. Han stood over him, swaying, barely conscious. Blood covered his face. His body was destroyed, but he was standing. Kale tried one more time to rise. His arms gave out. He fell face first into the sand. He did not get up again. The announcer's voice cut through the noise. Lord Kale cannot continue. The challenge is complete. Han of Earth is victorious. For a moment, there was absolute silence. Then, from somewhere in the human section, Tay began to cheer. The sound spread. Other humans joined in. Then some Velans. Then more. Soon, the entire arena was roaring. Han fell to his knees. He had won. Somehow, against all odds, he had won. He looked up and found Yuna's face in the crowd. She was crying and laughing at the same time, pushing past people to get to the arena floor. She ran across the sand and threw herself into his arms. He caught her, barely, and they both collapsed to the ground, holding each other. "You did it," she whispered. "You actually did it." Han smiled through the blood and pain. "I told you I would not die. You foolish, stubborn, impossible human. You're foolish, stubborn, impossible human." She kissed him then, in front of the entire empire. And for the first time in history, no one objected. 1 month had passed since the duel. Han stood on the balcony of the royal palace, looking out at the stars. The view was incredible. Millions of lights scattered across the black sky, each one a sun with its own worlds, its own stories. He was wearing clothes that cost more than his old salary for a year. His injuries had healed, though some scars would stay forever. His body had been broken and rebuilt. And somehow, he was still here, still alive, still standing. The door behind him opened, and Yuna walked out. She was wearing a simple dress, her hair loose around her shoulders. Without all the formal ceremony, she looked young and beautiful, and surprisingly normal. "You are thinking again," she said, coming to stand beside him. "I can tell by the way your forehead wrinkles." Han smiled. "I'm thinking about how strange life is. 1 year ago, I was fixing pipes in the lower decks. Now I am standing in the royal palace, watching the stars. Do you miss it? Your old life?" Han thought about it honestly. The small room, the hard work, the invisibility. "No," he said. "I miss the simplicity sometimes. But I do not miss being invisible. I do not miss being alone." Yuna took his hand. Her fingers intertwined with his, and it felt natural now. Like they had been doing this forever. "You are not alone anymore," she said. "You will never be alone again." The wedding ceremony had been huge. Representatives from every corner of the empire had attended. It had been broadcast to billions of viewers across hundreds of worlds. Han of Earth, the maintenance worker who defeated a lord in single combat, had married Princess Yuna of the Velan Empire. The news had spread through the galaxy like fire. Humans everywhere had watched with tears in their eyes. One of their own had risen from nothing to stand beside royalty. It was proof that they were not what the galaxy thought they were. They were not weak. They were not worthless. They were capable of greatness. Since the wedding, things had started to change. On this station, humans were treated differently. The looks of contempt were fading, replaced by something like respect. On other stations, other worlds, the same shift was happening. Slowly, carefully, the galaxy was starting to see humans in a new light. Han had not done it for fame or glory. He had not even done it for humans as a whole. He had done it because Yuna was in danger. Because it was the right thing to do. Because he could not make himself walk away. But sometimes, doing the right thing for the right reasons leads to bigger changes than anyone could expect. Tay had gotten a promotion. He was now the chief engineer of the station, overseeing all the technical operations. It was a position that would have been impossible for a human just a year ago. Now, no one questioned it. Han's friend had proven himself too many times to be dismissed. Captain Day had negotiated new agreements with the Velen Empire. Humans would have more opportunities, more access, more respect. It was not equality, not yet, but it was a start. Elder Sora had visited Han privately after the wedding. The old woman had looked at him with those ancient eyes and smiled. "You have changed things," she had said, "whether you meant to or not. The Empire will never be quite the same." "Is that a good thing?" Han had asked. "Change is neither good nor bad, it simply is. But I think this particular change was needed. We had forgotten that strength comes in many forms. You reminded us." Now, standing on the balcony with Yuna, Han felt the weight of everything that had happened. He was no longer just a man. He was a symbol, a representative. Everything he did would be watched and judged. It was terrifying. "I do not know how to be a prince," he admitted. "I do not know how to make speeches or lead armies or deal with politicians." "You will learn," Yuna said. "And you do not have to do it alone. We are partners now. When you are weak, I will be strong. When I am weak, you will be strong. That is how it works." Han looked at her. This incredible woman who had looked at a broken maintenance worker and seen something worth choosing. Who had risked everything. Her reputation, her position, her future. For him, "Why did you really choose me?" he asked. It was a question that had been in his mind for months. That day at the ceremony. "You could have chosen anyone. Why me?" Yuna was quiet for a moment. She looked out at the stars, gathering her thoughts. "All my life, I was surrounded by power," she said slowly. "Lords who measured their worth by how much they owned. Warriors who measured their worth by how many they had defeated. Everyone around me was always taking power, taking land, taking glory. Taking glory." She turned to face him. "You were the first person I ever met who only wanted to give. You saved me and wanted nothing in return. You helped the station and asked for no reward. Even when the entire empire was against you, you never tried to take anything. You just endured. You just kept being good." Her eyes were shining. "I had never seen anything like that. I did not know it was possible. And when I realized that such a person existed, I knew I could not let you go. I knew that spending my life with someone like you would make me better. Would make everything better." Han felt his throat tighten. He pulled her into his arms and held her close. "I love you," he said. The words came out rough, unpracticed. He had never said them to anyone before. Yuna buried her face in his chest. "I love you too, my foolish human." They stood like that for a long time, holding each other under the stars. Two people from different worlds, different species, who had found each other in the vastness of space. Far below the balcony, the station hummed with life. Velens and humans and dozens of other species went about their days. Some were still angry about the changes, some were afraid, but others were starting to see possibilities they had never imagined. A human maintenance worker had become a prince. If that was possible, what else might be possible? In the human district, Tay raised a glass in a small bar. Around him sat humans from all over the station, all celebrating. "To Han," Tay said, "the most stubborn man in the galaxy." "To Han," the others echoed. In his office, Captain Day looked at reports about human workers being promoted across the Empire. He smiled to himself. Change was happening. Slowly, but surely. On Earth, in a small town Han had left long ago, people gathered to watch news reports about their most famous son. Children pointed at screens and said they wanted to be like him. They wanted to travel to the stars. They wanted to do the impossible. And on the balcony of the palace, Han finally understood something. His whole life, he had felt like he was waiting for something to begin, waiting for someone to see him, waiting for a reason to keep going. He was not waiting anymore. "I used to think my life was small," he said softly. "That I was small. Just one person in a huge universe. And now? Yuna asked. Han looked at the stars, at the woman in his arms, at the future stretching out before them. Now I know that small does not mean unimportant. One person can change everything. One choice can reshape the universe. He smiled. I just had to find the right choice. Yuna reached up and touched his face. And the right person to choose you. They kissed under the starlight, and somewhere out in the cosmos, a million humans stood a little taller, because one of their own had shown them what they could be. Not weak, not worthless, not invisible, just human. And that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything.